Vice Sting. Sometimes bored housewives turn to places like Craigslist just to sell it. And then in every major American city, they walk in the corners. Call girls, go see older men just for money. And some of the swankiest parties in Hollywood have some of the kink. From the red light district of Thailand to the red light cabaret in Mound House, Nevada, this is Vice Sting. Prostitution, or the selling of sex, is literally the oldest, most profitable profession in the world. It is only eclipsed by the annual online sales of pornography US-wide, ranging from $14 to $97 billion annually. Prostitution, or the selling of one's youthful self, is a profession that doesn't lose steam over time, but yet morphs its new entrepreneurs into something more palatable to a public that wishes not to be caught by employing its services. Nobody wants to get caught. The Johns that buy, nor the prostitutes that sell. Prostitution has experienced a renaissance of sorts lately due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, globally, the COVID-19 pandemic shuttered most businesses and closed many jobs that women depended upon for their livelihood, for years, generations even. Those things shut down immediately, so they decided to come up with another alternative. But simultaneously, it opened up so many doors to the underworld of using what you got to get what you want. Shaking what you got to get what you want. Namely, money. Women who would have never imagined themselves being unemployed, let alone needing a man financially, would find themselves totally dependent upon strange men buying their wares in the form of OnlyFans, adult accounts, not the regular accounts, but adult accounts. In the paper online, Craigslist. Craigslist posting for sex and midday rendezvous at the Motel 6 in order to make her monthly rent. A lot of women didn't want to get kicked out with the new pandemic. They had to make their monthly rent. Prostitution for women has always been a source of revenue, but for their male counterparts, a source of prison recruitment. If they got caught, the least they would hope to receive was an overnight stay in jail cell, and the most, a loss of job, family, finances, and their face plastered on the local news. Here are the Johns we caught this week. But with today's acceptance of the oldest profession coming back, many college-educated women are beginning to get into the business to make more money than their college degree would have ever brought them. So it's sad to go to 4-year college, 6-year college, 8-year college, and go to a corner for one day and make more than you could have made in a job with that profession. Take our first case in college graduate from Houston, Texas, for example. Miss Deborah Tuberville. With her master's in psychology, she would decide not to become a prostitute herself, but to profit wholly off of the other women prostituting themselves for her. You would not be able to call Miss Tuberville, for she had far too many girls and sophistication of practice that the average pimp could barely manage to keep up with. She would never be able to catch her. Yes, Miss Tuberville's dubbed the Memorial Madam of Houston would organize many women into the largest prostitution ring ever in the history of Houston, Texas, and right under the nose of the town's law enforcement. As Madam, Miss Tuberville operated Vivian's Friends Brothel and Escort Agency in Houston, Texas, under the pseudonym Vivian. Vivian had clients listing 1,000 strong. Court documents say Deborah Tuberville told an undercover officer who she thought was a potential hire that her list of clients consisted of medical doctors, lawyers, financial service stockbrokers, and that kind of stuff. A lot of people you might see on television, she said. So we're not talking about a low-class operation. Imagine an operation over 1,000 to 1,500 people and higher-up people. The clientele also included professional athletes. So I mean, these guys were up top. I believe that Miss Tuberville was able to excel in her new chosen profession because although she may have come from humble beginnings, she ultimately ended up getting her master's degree in psychology. And if you know anything about psychology or the study of the brain in humans, then you can manipulate or get people to do what you would like them to do. It's the ultimate form of gaslighting. Now, this knowledge would enable her to manage, manipulate, and mold her customers, the ladies that work for her, and anyone seeking to pry into her forbidden business. But oddly enough, her level of education was not only shocking revelation to the story, but that she enlisted her husband, Mr. Charles Tuberville's help in the business of flesh peddling. Amazing. Now, together, the Tubervilles would exploit countless years and people in evading local, state, and national authorities with their business and income. Now you imagine, if you have a business that makes that many dollars, millions of dollars, and all you are is a housewife, and your husband says he works at a modest job that doesn't exist, how do you justify it? They became so stealthy at hiding this fact in plain sight that outside of their home, you wouldn't have any more idea than a goat that she wasn't anything else but a housewife. But if you are a viewer of this channel, this early morning show, you have heard me say countless times that the seeds of adult destruction are firmly planted in childhood minds. The seeds of adult destruction are firmly planted in childhood minds. So it depends on what we go through as children. It's what makes us as adults. For this reason, let us view the madam, in this case, beginning with her childhood. For it is there that I believe the entrepreneurial idea and the drive for illicit monies began. Prostitution in Belize is legal. That's the country she originated from. Belize. Belize sees prostitution as legal, but the buying of sexual service is not. Now, although denied by the Belize government, the country is a destination for sex tourism. There are several different countries on the globe, and in South America, Belize is one of the only ones that does this down there. Child sex tourism is a problem in that country, primarily by visitors from the United States of America. Sex trafficking is also a problem in the country. The idea of prostitution is typically linked to poverty or the need to escape it. Belize has a high rate of poverty. Now, while 42% of the general population is affected, up to 50% of Belizean children under the age of 15 are classified as poor. 52% of Belize youth under 18 are classified as multidimensionally poor. Now, I believe poverty of youth, coupled with witnessing the selling of bodies, were the seeds of the madam's future, regardless of her education to flee her impoverished community, regardless of the fact that she had attained a degree in psychology. Now, Houston's Madam Deborah L. Tuberville was born on August the 19th of the year 1975. Tuberville, as I mentioned previously, is a native of Belize and was raised yet in the country of England. But before her arrest, Tuberville had dozens of employees, not just the prostitutes, but dozens of employees, including 30 prostitutes and upwards of 1,500 male and female clients. I didn't make a mistake. Yes, you heard me right. Not only were men paying for her prostitutes, but women were as well. Her operation catered to high rollers only and big players, and screened prospective clients with P411. So if you've never heard before, the number P411. P411 is an information-based prostitution screening service to detect law enforcement. Hence the number 411, or to get the information, right? Now, this served Ms. Tuberville well, with keeping her husband's business and hers out of the public eye until one of her employees ended up snitching on her to save herself from a prison sentence. And in all of these cases, I don't care if we tell you in this channel about murder, theft, or prostitution, somebody is going to sell somebody else out to save their neck. It's the nature of doing wrong. Unlike the average pimp's regular customers, Tuberville's clientele included prominent doctors, like I said before, high-priced lawyers, professional athletes, and television personalities. Clients, now, this is the difference between paying for prostitution on a corner and paying for prostitution on a high clientele list. So clients paid up to $350 per hour, $250 of which prostitutes kept. So what a great bargain. Now, according to Houston attorney Terry Yates, who believed at the time that if there was to be a trial of some sort, This contested issued that those names were likely to become public, so all of those fancy names on that list he believed would come out in the press. Now, according to Harris County Assistant District Attorney Donna Hawkins, the clients may be questioned and charged for that doing. Now, the prostitution ring operated in broad daylight, in full public display, out of the address of 9900 Memorial Apartments, which was a 706-unit luxury apartment complex, and out of Uptown District area hotels. So if it wasn't an apartment complex, she would do it in the height of the middle of the city where high rollers existed. Tuberville operated under the cover of Tuberville LLC, a supposed international investment company, Logic Moving Solutions LLC, Wazala.com LLC, which is no longer available, and Alquima Properties. Houston Police Department Sergeant Mark Kilty labeled her the Heidi Fleiss of Houston and said that she probably had the biggest escort service in Houston. Houston Police Department arrested Tuberville and her husband, Charles Tuberville, on March the 10th of that year. At the time when they did it, they got him at the house. The warrants were there. The police were on time for the seizure. They seized 2 safes containing a substantial amount of cash, gold bullion, and silver, a Lexus sedan, a Chevrolet SUV, a pistol, and several personal computers. At that time, the Houston Police Department performed computer forensics on them in order to build a list of clientele. They were chasing down now the people who had paid for prostitution. Police seized Tuberville's business records, condoms, and lubricants from the apartment. The reputed Memorial Madam and her husband, accused of running a Houston escort service that catered to the wealthy, didn't flash from their ill-gotten booty as much people would believe. They weren't out there to put their money on the street. They didn't spend it like high rollers. They wanted to stay beneath the radar. She came from humble beginnings, and his not too much different. So I guess they didn't want to show themselves. In order to stay below the radar, they kept the business a total secret. In fact, Deborah Tuberville and her husband, Charles, so carefully concealed their alleged occupation that few suspected they were doing anything other than average working parents. Not the neighbors, not even the nanny who cared for their children on a day-to-day basis. Nobody had no more idea. Now, this comment from a woman who watched their children each day of the week. She said, "I was very surprised by this happening. Because of the way they conducted themselves, they were both good people to me and to their children. So even the nanny was totally shocked." Now, the couple lived a simple life with a few signs of significant wealth and cared greatly for their children. Everybody said that. The children at the time were ages 1 and 3 years old. This would be detrimental to the children because both would be in trouble. The couple rented instead of purchasing their West Houston home. Both husband and wife drove 6-year-old cars. She a Lexus sedan and he a Chevrolet Tahoe. Is this the behavior of people who take in millions from prostitution? No wonder they stayed on the radar for so long. No wonder they have so many clients. Because clients in this situation must trust you. High rollers have to be able to trust somebody. But one day, that seemingly quiet existence and trust fractured when police showed up unexpectedly and arrested a couple and charged them both with promoting prostitution. They were charged with allegedly running a brothel and a call girl operation based in hotel rooms and on Memorial Drive, their home. Getting to know them, the Vice Squad investigators said the Tuberville's escort business was the largest they had ever encountered based on the number of customers who used their services. Now, on the family side and on their friend side, nobody was saying anything. They remained tight-lipped about the Tubervilles, but bits of their story began to trickle out, just like in your town. So, Deborah Tuberville, the Belize native who was raised in England, who spoke with a British accent and is just under 5 feet tall. She attended college and graduated school before she decided to come to the United States. But in every home, in every neighborhood, there's always neighbors who talk. Remember I said before she earned her master's degree in psychology. But her neighbors said things like, they never spoke to us. They remained quiet. They could never imagine either that this was going on. So, after the couple was arrested and they posted bail, they were released. The couple's attorney, Keisha Smith and Joe Omby, Charles Tuberville also, who was a College Station, Texas youth, and was the son of a guy who was a radio station sportscaster at the time. He graduated from Texas A&M Consolidated High School. The Tubervilles met in 2001 and married in Brazos County in 2004. In that year, she became a permanent resident of the United States of America. Both Tuberville's Facebook pages, which have been taken down from the web since the incident, included a portrait in which he adoringly glazes at her. This case, beyond any so far, will be amazing. But each week we're going to bring you cases just like this, and more astounding than this. Now, in that picture, both are dressed in suits. She is wearing pearls. Their look is far removed from the mugshots taken shortly after their arrest. According to the Facebook page, Charles Tuberville is a Democrat, and his musical tastes range anywhere from Willie Nelson at one end and Radiohead to Frédéric Chopin. Amazing. What a musical talent, right? The Tubervilles have lived in Austin, College Station, and Round Rock, where in 2005 they began living in their modest 2,000 square foot home. Their neighbors in that Round Rock, just outside Austin, said they never noticed anything unusual about the couple or any people coming and going from that home. These are always telltale signs of prostitution. In your neighborhood where you grew up, what's the first thing you notice? People coming in and out, never the same person. If it's not a bed and breakfast, it must be prostitution. One woman went so far as to say, "I never would have guessed anyone in this neighborhood was associated with anything like that." And this is from Sarah Ochoa. "If there were, I saw no signs of it." Now, the couple appears to have arrived in Houston in the year 2005. But it is unclear how the Tubervilles would have first delved into the world of prostitution, or where they would have learned how to run a business that apparently was as successful as it was secret. But as I said before, her native country of Belize. So there is a prostitution and it's rampant. As a matter of fact, in the city of Houston, Texas, prostitution is rampant. Just Google prostitution in Houston, Texas, and you will see a girl, so many girls per block. So neither appears to have a criminal record, though the Tubervilles have no criminal record in the United States. Police note that the couple are managing members of Wazala.com, LLC, according to the records on file with the Texas Comptroller's Office. But they didn't report earning any income. Now, the nanny recalled that Charles Tuberville left the family's home every day to go to work, while Deborah, his wife, Mrs. Tuberville, spent most days at home, occasionally leaving to shop at the grocery store or claiming she was going to help her husband at the office as a secretary. What kind of secretary manages millions of dollars for prostitution? But if you take people on their word, under your nose, in plain sight of day, this happens. Now, his wife was at the Tubervilles' home on March 10th when they were arrested. On the day of their arrest, the nanny was at the house, and thankfully no one could have watched their infant children if she was not there. The morning started like any other, she recalled, with Charles Tuberville leaving the house with his oldest daughter. The nanny said she assumed he was just taking the child to school, as he normally did. Now, Deborah Tuberville stayed in the living room while the nanny took the children, 1-year-old, into the playroom because the police had just arrived at the door 1 hour later. So we fast forward. About 1 hour later, the doorbell rang. She said when she walked out to investigate, she saw an ashen-faced Charles Tuberville handcuffed and surrounded by police. They had caught them. Charles Tuberville asked the nanny to stay with the children until his mother could arrive from out of town to care for them. She agreed. She said she later saw Deborah Tuberville led away in handcuffs as well. This was devastating to happen to two little children that morning. The caregiver then said, "I feel so sorry, especially for the little babies." The nanny said tearfully, "They're very good parents. I can't say anything bad about them because I never saw anything bad." The young couple was released out on bail of $5,000 each after being accused of running a prostitution ring that court documents said catered to a clientele that included businessmen, doctors, and sports figures. The wife, Deborah L. Tuberville, aged 33 years at the time, was arrested, as I said before, on March 10th and charged with aggravated promotion of prostitution. Her husband, along with her, Charles Tuberville, age 31 at the time, was arrested on the same charge. But something goes suspiciously absent in this case. The arrest did not draw attention until later that same week. The Tubervilles have 2 children, as I said before, a baby and a toddler. Their neighbors in the Houston subdivision said the children's nanny was nicer than the parents. Now, like I said before, something goes strangely wrong in this particular case. The information we have for you ends right here. The case was supposed to come up years ago, and it disappeared. It shows no signs of anybody being charged after the arrest, after being released. It shows no signs of anybody's name being put out who was on that list. No celebrities, no lawyers, no doctors, anything. Now, it's hard to say. I can't call it a cover-up. Whatever happens down in Houston, I guess stays in Houston. We just thought, okay, she said, the neighbor. That's the kind of people they were, because they didn't speak. At that time, the arrest, office pools about that time had already started names of notable Houstonians who are most likely to be on that list. So everybody around Houston was taking a bet. Who's on that list? Mr. Noble said he would leave the speculation to others. It's a scandal, that's for sure, he said. I'll bet that there are a lot of people nervous right now, waiting, thinking that their name was going to come out on that list. But the list never did manifest itself. The trial never did manifest itself. Imprisonment never did manifest itself. According to the arrest warrant at the time, Ms. Tuberville, using the name Vivian, managed college-educated prostitutes, ranging in age from 19 years old to 35. She recruited them from sexually oriented advertisements the woman had placed on the website Craigslist. So Craigslist, like I said before, is the site for that. They interviewed prospective call girls at Starbucks, bragging to an undercover police officer that their clients were people you might see on television. She explained to her in an interview they charged $250 to $350 per hour, payable by cash, credit card, or just like you guys like, PayPal. Ms. Tuberville solicited customers using various websites in a tape conversation with a female undercover police officer at that Starbucks, who was posing as a prostitute. Ms. Tuberville said new customers had to undergo a background check. Remember, this is not for Johns on the corner. When you pull up to a corner, there is no background check. In the car, you do the deed out of the car. The prospective sex for money dates took place in hotel rooms or apartments rented by the Tubervilles. One of the apartments was in a wooded area across the street from a Catholic seminary and within blocks of the offices of the former President George Bush. Now, next time, tune in as we give you one more of these cases, and you can decide if it's happened under your nose, in your town. So, at least 2 prostitutes who worked for the Tubervilles at the time were also arrested that week. The charges against one of the women had been dropped because she cooperated, as I said before, with the police investigation. The police said that 10% of the Tubervilles' 1,500 clientele list had paid by credit card. Are you paying by credit card? Are you buying sex? Find it next week. We'll see you then.
So you suckers out of luck. I'm Friday summer with my Brazilian. Contemplating chasing paper till we hit $1 million. Like fly like Bonnie, protected by an army. The weapon that's forming against Michelle Harmon. I'm folding up the dollars with a style origami. Cause I'm getting to the paper, no 50 cents.